I'm Joel Woolman. I'm the current chairman of Trucking Solutions Group. In other words, I'm the one that has to try and herd the cats in this group. If you've been on one of our calls before, just raise your hand. All right, thank you very much. If you have been a guest on one of our calls, please stand up. I know we've got Jeff over here, we've got Hope, we've got Brian, and Aaron, thank you. So, next slide. Yes, thank you. There we go. The Trucking Solution Group, our purpose. We are a group of transportational professionals, carriers, owner-operators, fleet owners, striving to improve our business through education of ourselves and others in the industry, while also trying to projecting a positive image. And that's part of our talk today, target practice. Do you have something, a bullseye on your back, and what are you doing? We fulfill this goal by acting as a professional focus group for some of the people in the industry. We beta test products and services, and we are discerning the potential impacts of proposed rules and regulations. In other words, comment periods, we make a group comment plus submit our own. Do we always agree? Oh, heavens no. As all of us in the industry know, if there's 4 truckers in the room, there's 5 opinions. So, members of the group, let's go to the next slide there. I'm not gonna, okay. Guest speakers, you can look at it. Our typical call is either a guest speaker, and we've lined up probably in the next 4 or 5 weeks already here at the show. We try and get somebody at least every month. Sometimes it's general maintenance topics just amongst the group. One good example is one of our members was having an air leak as he was driving down the road. When he stopped, it went away. How hard is it to find that? Well, one member quizzed another who said, oh, I know somebody else that had that problem, check this, and it happened to be an airline that only turned on at 35 miles an hour. He went to that, plugged it back in, problem solved. So that's, some of the ways we work there. Also, our witty banner, friendly ribbing. Probably one of the best examples of that is one of our members happened to run over a fire hydrant. And I won't mention Shane's name at all. But when he got here to the show, all of a sudden, somebody put out 4 inflatable fire hydrants in front of his truck. So that's some of the friendly stuff. We have one member that always says, I need to put on my tinfoil hat before I make a statement. That's where the tinfoil and the friendly ribbing come from. So the next, let's just blast right. Well, now I got a couple minutes. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to get to a slide after you see all the members here and get their little bio. Some of the topics that we feel passionate about that kind of talk about what you may be targeted for and what you need to target. Bob here is our moderator. He's with Landstar. He is not part of our group, and he's going to, if you don't pick a topic for us to talk about, he's going to pick it for us and start moving the conversation right along. So if you have a topic or a question that you're dying to ask right now, raise your hand and we'll start with you. Nobody, okay.
I know he's got a interesting question. What we just talked about. Yeah. His question is, how are the new regulations that went into effect on March 11th going to impact us as drivers? Independent owner-operators.
You're talking about the new rules from the Department of Labor?
Yes.
Department of Labor should have nothing to do with transportation. They're two separate organizations. So that's the answer we're getting right now. Now, the new Department of Labor rules are not like California's AB 5 rules. If you know that, they sound the same, they're not quite the same. Does that help you? Okay.
When you say we're separate, the transportation and labor, what does that mean for us on that law? Does that mean we're exempt somehow?
When the hours of service came out, they created Department of Labor and Department of Transportation back in the 30s. Anybody regulated by hours of service were exempt from anything from the Department of Labor.
That continues on. I knew that was the case before this, but I thought this changed that. Okay.
It should not change it.
Okay.
Now, we're dealing with a certain party that likes to control from the top down. Mm-hmm. Need I say more?
Right.
Okay.
That's why it's scary.
That could be why it's real scary. So, anyway, now the Bullseye topics are up there. Thank you, by the way. Anybody have a choice of which one of those we start on? Otherwise, Bob's going to pull the bow and... All right, Bob, put one out there.
All right. What I like was the using hours of service properly, because at the firm I'm at, that is one of our biggest issues. It's always a problem, and it's very, very difficult to address. So comments, concerns, suggestions, and thoughts on that?
Okay, hours of service, being part of a team, we never have issues because one of us always has hours. In our case, it's no big deal. Now, solos is another story. So I'll hand it to a solo driver.
To me, the hours of service are not a big deal. When we switched to ELDs, I went through the whole hassle of trying to figure it out, and it was a pain. But now that I've had it, I don't see a big deal with it. I don't ever want to go back to paper. I love it. I hated filling out a paper log every day. So to me, it's no big deal. Yes, there are times where I've had to push a little harder to get somewhere to get parked before my time was running out. But it's just time management throughout your day.
On the time management, my runs, just as it turns out, my two main routes, one's 1,382 miles each way. I'm able to get it done in 4 days. And I challenge myself to get 735 miles in the first day, trying to get ahead. But using the 8-2 splitter combinations of the 7-3 split, my other two runs are 3,840 and 3,860 miles. And I get that done and be able to get a restart and stay on the same cycle. But I really have to plan. Like, I don't want to sit in Atlanta traffic. So instead of taking a half-hour break, I might take a 3-hour break and lay down some or whatever so that my miles are productive. I don't go into these cities. And it's funny, the one thing I noticed with the ELDs is, especially on morning rush hour, used to be the truck stops just emptied out by 7 o'clock. Well, they were all out there in the traffic. Now it's thinned out a little bit because the truck stop, there's hundreds of trucks that are still parked, each one taking up about 100 foot of road space. It's eased it up, but I found that if I plan it right, and it was the beauty of the group, I'll never forget, I was at a deal with Ann Farrell, and she says, well, how's the half-hour break affecting you? I said, well, I don't take it if I don't want to. And she says, what do you mean you don't take it? I says, I take a 2-hour break instead, which eliminates that half-hour break. So through proper planning, I've been able to, week after week after week, pull off. I did 7 weeks of 3,840 miles a week and stayed on the same loop. But it took some. I'm not saying that when I pull in and park that I'm not on my last minute, and it's stuff that's sharing with each other that we figure things out.
How many here are old enough that you had to use paper logs? When you first went to an AOBR or an ELD, did you dread it, or were you happy that you could no longer be told by dispatch you had to be there overnight no matter what? That was the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, I'm an old man now. I need my 10 hours. And yeah, my AOBR, later the ELD, dispatch couldn't tell me I had to drive.
Adding to what you said, Joel, how many here have been doing it long enough that used to do the recap before we had the 34-hour restart? And how many still know how to do it? I'm surprised how many people I meet, they're like, well, I have to park for 34 hours. I'm like, no, you don't have to. And, you know, a lot of them will look and they have the hours, they can get where they want to go.
While we're on hours of service, anybody else have a question about?
All right, well, the hot topic on this list here is AB5. It has caused all kinds of commotion, and there is rumor that it may spread to other states. And I believe there are 3 states that are ready to move forward if AB5 is not stricken down by the Supreme Court at some point. AB5 is still being aggressively sued, and who knows what will happen, but it is the law of the land in California right now. So your comments on that, how has it affected you? Has it affected you at all? And what do you do to hug it or avoid it?
I wish Jimmy was here.
Jimmy
We have one carrier that's a member of ours that is a small carrier with people leased to him in California, and he's had to redo his contract, seemingly weekly. It's not, but he's been back and forth with the lawyers trying to figure out how to make that work. But I wish Jimmy was really here on that one. Most of us, that's not affecting us yet.
Okay, do you still go into California? Yes. Right, no issues? Right, because do anybody here live in California? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good one then.
But like you guys mentioned, the new Department of Labor rules. Yeah, somebody's probably going to try and push it into the companies. We got to be ready to push back.
Definitely. All right. Where I work at, we really stress the appearance of your truck, the appearance of your trailer, and the appearance of yourself when you visit a dock, a client, what have you. I would love your thoughts on that, and what do you do?
Dressing and looking professional, it's amazing. I always hear of people going onto the dock and having problems getting people to even notice them. This is pretty much what I wear, with except I have a full brim hat on, and I go on docks and I get respected. They're there to answer me right away. I have no problems. The one problem I did have, I've loaded all my trucks I'm going to load for the day. You'll have to wait until the next shift comes in. I said, fine, I can wait. We run expedite, which means they need this stuff right away. So I basically said, we'll be out in the lot waiting for us. And so then they found out that they needed the stuff. So then I went in, and he says, I don't want to see you again. So then I walked in. Well, you might need my keys because sometimes you don't want me to, start the truck. So I walked in. That proved that I was in the dock, so he knew he had to come and unload me. Kill him with kindness is my philosophy on that. And appearance-wise, don't wear your flip-flops. Don't wear your holy T-shirts. We won't even go into the shorts. But do what they say. There's a good app called Doc 411. that has information on it that covers all that. They have what you need for PPE to wear at the location. Follow the rules. I mean, it's their site. Granted, you're helping them move their product, but be nice to them. They'll be more kind to you. Pretty much.
And I think
Common sense.
if I heard this young lady correctly, she said, "Don't wear your pajamas." Is that what you said? Oh, right there. Don't wear your pajamas.
So I'll add to that is you only get one chance to make a first impression, correct? So how you dress, how you act, and what your equipment looks like, you only get one chance. So dress professionally, be professional, and keep your equipment clean and maintained well.
Add to that, that's a big thing for me, this whole appearance thing. And so much of the industry wants to say they're old school. My uniform, which this is really close to what I wore when I was flatbedding. How many flatbed drivers wore a tie? But I based my uniform on the 1940s and 1950s driver. And it started on a dare. We were at a museum. I have time to tell the story, I think. I was at a museum with a business friend of mine. And I had nice uniforms. The only difference on my work ones is I buy Dickies dress uniform shirts, but it's all embroidered the same. They just clean better. But there was a timeline. And at the time at this museum, the average road driver's wages, somewhere in the 40s, early 50s, was within $2,000 of the average doctor or lawyer. And I said to him, well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. We went down the line. They had a mannequin in the uniform that they wore at the time. Hard bill cap, Eisenhower jacket, a tie on. And they didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have power steering. So what could possibly be our excuse? I mean, for some reason, when we think of old school, I think that we might be stuck in the psychedelic 70s or something. But the thing that happened with it was a door opener. Everywhere where I delivered, and I was on my own authority representing myself, I could count on it that the person that owned the place, ran the place, or was in charge of something would come over and have a conversation with me, which gave me the chance to present my services, which often led to them, well, we need to get you set up with so-and-so hauling in here, or they'd want me, because I'm representing them when I deliver to their customer. First year that I did it, by the way, I ended up making 30 grand more without driving any more miles than I did before. So I say the ROI on that tie was really high, and it made it very easy to wear. If any of you want to talk about that more, I got a picture of the stuff from back then. It's amazing.
My experience, I was at one carrier, and we did flatbed type work, hauling vehicles and stuff. And there was no uniform, there was no dress code. So everybody in the company wearing their old Harley t-shirts and their, dirty, ripped up jeans and stuff. And that's, pretty much a lot of truck drivers wear these days. It's just, that's what you do. So then I went to do the exact same thing at another carrier, but they gave us t-shirts that said, the company's logo on it, the company's name on the back and the front. They gave us hats to wear, and they gave us, swag to give to the customer. So we had some coffee cups and some pens and some hats. And I delivered to all the same places as I did at the other carrier. And when I would walk in with my high-vis shirt on that said the company I was working for and my hat, they knew who I was. And they go, oh, hey, you're here. Yeah, go park around back, the lift docks over there or whatever. And I felt better because I would walk in and they knew who I was and what I was there to do. When I would walk in, when I worked at the other place and I didn't have a uniform, I'd walk in and they'd either ignore you or go, hey, what do you need? Because they thought you were a customer that was bringing their, $4.50 in for service or whatever. So having that uniform made me more presentable to the customer, and they knew who I was. And I got treated a little bit different because the one company was, they're not the greatest company. This company's better. So we know who you are. Oh, hey, don't worry about it. Just STI that freight. Just park it in the back and just leave the keys in it, and we'll get to it later. The other company was, oh, well, you're that company. Well, we got to check your stuff over. And that's where the uniform made me feel better, and I try to present myself in that positive light, even though I don't have a company like Henry does. Like, I don't have my own trucking company. I'm one truck owner operator leased onto another carrier. But that's how I stand out from other guys doing the same thing I'm doing at the same company. And they go, oh, hey, we want the guy in the yellow Volvo to show up because him and his wife are helping us, and they look presentable, and their equipment's presentable, and they're doing a quick, timely job. And the customer sees that, you know, and then you don't have that interaction of, oh, he's just another truck driver. And they treat you a little bit different. That's been my experience.
Adding to what Heck says, I had a really distinctive advantage in my trucking career that started back in 1983, which is way too long ago now, but I never drove for a trucking company other than my own. Prior to starting my own authority in 96, I drove for private carriers, and especially the first one was Weaver's Chicken out of New Holland, Pennsylvania, but the big thing they stressed to us was we were the most important salespeople they had. We were out there in front of the public. We were meeting their customers more often than their sales force ever did. And it sort of stuck with me to the next private carrier that I carried some of those same ideals there that really helped. And it was something that really helped me as I started my own trucking company, that I wasn't in that, and I don't want to say it negatively, but that trucking mentality that, and it carried a lot of weight.
I deliver to a lot of the same places over and over. One of the things I do, and I know when I get there, they're union operators. I got to have a hard hat, high-vis safety boots on. A lot of my fellow truck drivers jump out in their tennis shoes and go right to work. They're not going to say anything, the forklift operators, but if their safety person comes by, they're not going to say something to you, but they're going to write up that union guy. So who do you think's going to have more fun or get a quicker response from that union forklift operator?
Joel, you're one of the few people I know that go to a union place and have gotten loaded after they were done loading.
And if I could just add to this, I spent 9 years of my career on the opposite side of things here. I was the owner of a business. Every week I would have 1 to 2 trucks show up at my loading dock. Twice I called the owner of the company of that trucking firm and said, never send that driver back to my company again, ever. Because appearance, attitude, unwilling to help, no ability to talk, showing up in flip-flops. You can't do it. So on my end of it, nope, sorry, I don't want you here again. So very important.
So that was that first impression.
Yes, first impression, absolutely. And I also had my favorites, and I would say, I like him, I like her, send them back, please. So.
Well, Bob, on that note, and moving on from that, that was the cool thing. A lot of people forget your names, and I'd haul a load for somebody, and they'd say, hey, you know that guy you sent in a tie last time? Send him again.
Yep.
You know, so they'd forget your name, but they never forgot.
Something memorable, a bow tie, a hat, a funny hat, something memorable. So they won't remember your name, but they'll remember you. Very cool. I want to talk about aggressive driving. That's always a hot topic. Henry, you want to say something?
And I was just thinking about it when I was coming here, and it's one of the subjects we wanted to cover. So we just talked about getting noticed. But to me, to the general public, we do a lot to get noticed. But if we're doing our job perfectly, nobody would ever notice it. That's what should be our goal. And where that story came, I did a blog on it where I do a blog for Team Run Smart. I was coming here with my wife and my 6-year-old son to the Mid-America Truck Show, my first time coming to it. 64 was under construction, and there was Jersey barriers on both sides. I'm driving my wife's Toyota Camry, not the semi-truck. And right in my rearview mirror is the grill of a truck with the fangs in it yet, right on my bumper. We're in a cattle chute. I can't go nowhere. I can't move out of the way. I'm following to a reasonable distance to another semi ahead of me. I'm in this little frickin' Toyota between 2 semis, and one's right on my butt. So I say the way we drive, the way we present ourselves, what we do out in the public, we should be trying not to get noticed. And if there's any one place in our entire nation where we should drive absolutely to every P and Q to be perfect, where nobody seems to, including the cars, is the Washington, D.C. Beltway. You know, the government regulators and lawmakers, they don't get up in the morning thinking about a truck driver. There's like world peace, nuclear issues going on. We're not at the top of their list. But you know, on their way into work, or their aides, or the lobbyists, it's not invisible what we're doing. They see every last bit of it. And if anybody that's ever driven around the Beltway on DC, they're seeing what we're doing. And you know, when they make that regulation and we're like, oh, we don't do that. No, they see it every morning and every evening. So, but to me, not just there, but if you really think about it, if there's one place in the country where we should be right on the money, it's the DC Beltway.
So what do you do when you are in a situation where you have maybe a four-wheeler causing an issue on the road? How do you handle it?
This is one I learned. One I learned from, it was when I worked at Weaver's, my first driving job, one of the owner-operators, he says, if you got somebody that's really getting on your nerves when you're out on the road, he says, stop at the next exit, wait till the light turns green, go across, you'll never see them again that day. Just let it go.
Yeah, one of the things I do, I just slow down. Just slow down, let them go. Because you're just going to get aggravated, they're going to get aggravated, and then there might be a situation. I've actually had a road rage incident where I had my family in the car. We were in the car, and I had a gun pulled on me. And nobody wants that to happen to them. And it doesn't take much for that to happen. And that was my fault to get that started when I was younger. And the guy was riding my tail. I gave him a little brake check, and he didn't go away. I said, all right, I'm done with this. I merged over one lane. He followed me. I merged over another lane. He followed me again, and we ended up on the shoulder. And it got ugly. But when I'm driving the truck, when I'm driving the car, just slow down and let them go. They like Henry said, you'll never see them again. Right, and you're not going to teach them nothing. They're just going to get mad. Exactly. You're not going to teach them anything by being, aggressive and chasing them down and trying to run them off the road or whatever. You're just going to make a situation worse. Just let it go.
Also, think about it. If you're owner-operator and you get in an accident with them, your downtime, the money that you lose, right? So they can go get a rental car. Can you go get a rental truck? Most likely not. Where we're leased to, we can't go get a rental truck. Plus, we run a specialized truck, an expedite truck. Nobody rents those. So think of lost income and just back off, get out of their way, let them go.
Adding to what Stephen just said, the one thing I've noticed out on the road today, there's very few accidents. There's a lot of crashes. That's not an accident when that happened. It's a crash, it's a wreck, and now the politically correct one seems to be saying there was an incident, but it wasn't an accident.
Another thing that fellow truckers, how many times you're going down the interstate, that truck will pass you, they slow down, you pass them back. You slow down, they pass you, and then you pass. Just let off the foot feet, especially going uphill. You let off the foot feet a little bit, especially if you're in the truck lane, you'll never see them again. Same way with the truckers.
I thought it was best stated by let it go. Let it go. Simple as that. And I am not a truck driver, I'm a four-wheeler. I let it go. I used to be more aggressive. Now, let it go. It's not worth it. Not worth it to me, not worth it to them. So, excellent. Thank you.
One of the things I like, anybody out here, if I come up behind you while I'm driving, my Detroit assurance system will basically lock onto your truck. I'll be so many feet behind you. In cruise control, you slow down, the truck's going to slow down. You're my guide. You're also breaking the wind for me and helping increase my fuel economy. So if I'm back there and you move over, I'll move over. You move back, I'll move back. I'm going to keep you. and I will just go down the road till you decide you have to pull off or I do. That's one of the ways I avoid aggressive driving.
All right.
And you said you weren't a truck driver, neither am I. I'm a commodities relocation specialist. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I love that. Driving slower. Why in the heck would anybody want to drive slower in this day and age? Nobody else is?
Peaceful. That is a good one right there. You're not white knuckling it going through the city. And, I drive 60 most of the time where I go. And the freight I haul a lot, you got to switch it up every once in a while. You got to get somewhere. But I just set the cruise at 60, and everybody's passing you. They just go around you. You don't have a conflict, a cause, and you don't get cut off because they're all trying to go 75 miles an hour. So they just zip by you and off they go. So just drive slower. Fuel economy. It's the cheapest way to make more money in the trucking industry. Nobody here gets raises. You lease onto a place at 78%. You lease on at 65% or whatever your mileage rate is. Some places you get little raises, whatever, but for you to put money in your pocket, if you're paying for that fuel, the quickest way to make more money, just slow down. It's free. And it's no white knuckling. It's easy. It makes life easier. You're less stressed at the end of the day. You got to lay back a little bit, put your foot up on the window. No, not really.
Your flip-flop up on the window, right?
Yeah, you flip-flop.
Now, I remember one day that I was up and I unloaded in Newark, New Jersey, and it was a rainy, cold day, and they held me up. It was just a miserable day that I was wondering why I drove a truck for a living. Picked up in Delaware, and I hit the D.C. beltways at 4 p.m., which made me think more why. And I came off exit 18, off of 50 onto the beltway, and I decided that day I'm not participating. And literally, I ran 50 mile an hour in the right lane. The trucks that were working real hard out there in the middle lanes where they had no escape route, I always had the shoulder. I had to check up a little bit this is when the old Woodrow Wilson Bridge was there. Had to check up a little bit down at the Spaghetti Junction, went down there. The story where it really set off to me was, and some trucks are recognizable that you remember them, when I got to the Woodbridge scales, the trucks that were out there just up on it, they were up on the wheel. They were pulling out of the scale as I pulled in. I'm like, they put in way too much effort for that little bit of gain.
Yep.
Yeah, you never need the left lane. You never need it if you're going 60, right? So you're not mad at anybody for not letting you out?
By incident, the truck that I was running back then, it was the one I ran up higher in the miles. When I traded that truck in at 915,000 miles, it still had the original front brakes. And I ran the Northeast.
That's a good point there too, Henry. And it's less maintenance on your truck. It's less wear and tear on your tires, your brakes, your body, all the equipment, the load, whatever you're hauling. It's less likely you're going to tip it over or you got to slam on the brakes. And you shift that load, and if you're hauling flatbed and you got something chained or strapped down to all those things, it just makes everything better. And then you're not noticed because everybody just drives by you. They're not like, oh, look at that trucker, he's all aggressive in my way. They just drive right by you.
And that car that cut you off to jump off at their exit, they're doing 20 mile an hour quicker than you. You just doesn't even affect you.
All right. Tied in with that, avoiding distracted driving. What do you do for that? Anybody?
Well, I have a wife that rides with me, so she just smacks me when I'm doing something I shouldn't be. But yeah, put this stuff down. It's a huge law, and if you get caught on your phone doing that stuff, it's a huge fine for you. And if you're leased to a carrier, it goes on the carrier too. Mm-hmm. And it looks bad on us driving down the road. You're thumbing on your phone, and you're whirring in the lane, and you can watch the guys, and you come up on them. God, is that guy drunk? And you get up there, and he's got a TV show playing on the dash on his freaking laptop. Cars, the public doesn't want to see us doing that because we're supposed to be professionals. And, that's, and that one guy that you see doing that represents the whole entire industry to that one person in the car or their kids that see that, just don't do it. You just don't do it.
Yeah.
One bad apple.
I don't do it to this level, but I've thought about doing it. But a friend of mine, because it was too much of a temptation for them, it became their thing that when they get in the truck, they automatically toss their phone back onto the bed.
Perfect. I have a rule in my family. If you're in a car or driving, you do not use a cell phone at all. You just don't use it.
Yeah, when I get into the seat, if you want to call me, you're getting my co-driver. You're waking me up because I do not have the phone anywhere close that I could possibly even think about reaching for it.
I like that idea. Throw it in the back. Perfect. At this point, do we have any questions from the audience? Anything you'd like to ask? Please, please, please. Don't make me pick on you.
Run the next.
Bob will pick on you.
I will. I will. You.
What you're seeing up there right now is some of the guests that we've had on our calls. Like I said at the beginning, a couple of them are actually sitting here. The ones that are highlighted actually are here at Matt's. So if you see one of their names up there and you might have a question about what we talked about, you know, if they happen to be here, great. If not, we'll tell you what we talked about then.
Now, if I want to join one of your calls, what do I have to do?
Our calls could be private or they're public. We'll advertise on our Facebook page if it's a public call. We got one coming up with Jeff with API pretty soon. I think the 30th of April. We'll put that on our Facebook page. It's a free call if you have a cell phone. It's free conference call. We'll give you the access code. You dial in, join, and at the beginning of every call, it'll be something like, this is who we're going to talk to. The rules we want you to abide by is to mute your phone because there's an awful lot of background noise, and if you multiply that by about 50 truckers, it gets really bad. We also have a control panel, and we can mute you, and we've even muted some of our own members.
Over.
Yeah,
Over.
that's the other thing.
We've often muted some of our own members.
Yes. The other thing is we're so aggressive sometimes talking, and we're at the end of a question or the end of a statement, we say over. So we know that the next person can talk. That could be even on our witty banner calls, you know.
And talking about the fun, were you over?
Yeah, I'm over.
All right. But I was looking down at that list, and there's some that aren't there, but when we had FMCSA on, that was so awesome. Just the interaction we had, not in a contentious moment, but to me, the one that reminded me of, that's before I think most everybody that's on the panel, from one of the original members, we had all the people from PAT, Crash, and all the safety groups that are against us. And where it hit me was one day I called them up because all we ever read about them is in the trucking media. Of course, they're lobbyists. They're going way off over here. Trucking's going way off over here, both of them knowing it's going to end up somewhere in the middle, right? What we found out was we were about this close to each other. They want us to be able to make a fair and equitable wage and not have to drive hard and get home to our families. That seemed, we weren't. At the end of the day, though, it turned into, I think, an hour and a half call. But we weren't really that far apart when everybody wasn't lobbying. And it was actually pretty cool.
All right, other
Over.
questions? Yes, sir.
Hey, Brian.
All right, a race. The guy with the necktie won. Thanks again for coming out. We really do appreciate it. On the subject of distracted driving, when you're on the road, you guys are on the road a lot. If you see someone who is obviously distracted, what kind of response do you take?
That'd be a full-time job.
Yeah, it depends on the distraction. Normally, because I'm in the right lane, I see them as they go by. And I'm going to let them keep going till they're out of sight. Sometimes you got to use the exit. Pull over, take a breath, kick the tires, check the load, go back to work.
It amazes me when you're driving on the road. Of course, we got the view. That how many people in the cars have phones. It surprises me how many trucks do too, because the cars can't see it. You know, it's over next to us, but the amount of that is just, it's unbelievable.
Truly.
As far as aggressive, other drivers being aggressive, if it's a trucking company and they got their little phone number on the back, their safety department is getting a phone call. If it's a four-wheeler, you can call the highway patrol. By the time they get out there, they're long gone. So it's, for us, it's a waste of time. But trucking company, because we want safe drivers, because we all have to live by what that trucker did to them.
And on that note, where I work, we get those calls from the motorists on our owner-operators, unfortunately, but we deal with it immediately. We send it to the safety department, and we follow up with that driver immediately to find out what's going on. And then we deal with it from that point forward.
Give you a case in point. We were going through Atlanta during rush hour. Our mistake, but we were going through Atlanta. She was driving, I was in the passenger seat helping directing her through Atlanta. Next thing you know, the phone rings from our carrier. And that's the carrier down there.
It was not me that called.
No, it was not him, but that company. And they said, we just got a call that you just sideswiped a school bus. And I said, okay. Yeah, they called in, they had your truck number and everything. And I said, we're moving at about 1 inch per hour. How could we sideswipe? And they listened to that, they looked at our logs and saw we weren't moving. They were able to look at our ELD logs and saw that she was not moving. So they started kind of scratching their head, hung up with us. I don't know what they did. If they looked, maybe, we don't know. But we got the call, but our carrier listened to us, didn't say, you're out of here. They listened to us, looked at the evidence they could look at, and there was nothing there. There was no there because we were sitting in moving 1 inch per hour.
I'm going to guess that you were pranked and somebody just called and, you know, unfortunately. But
On that note,
we docs, what are the words? But we do take it seriously, but we do follow up. Yep.
On that note of taking it serious with stuff like that, I think everybody here has a camera on their truck now, don't they? Yeah.
Not
How many are
everybody.
using?
But not everybody, but you should.
And I'm an independent. I have the one facing myself, the god awful, oh my God. Yeah, but it's not that big of a deal. And if anybody wants to watch it, they have a really boring life. Glad I could entertain them.
Have you ever had to use that?
No.
Nope.
No, mine gets some things wrong. It has AI on it. If I scratch my beard, it sends me a coachable moment that I had my cell phone, but you can see in the video I didn't.
Okay, speaking if I've ever had to use it, yes. 1 o'clock in the morning, I-70, going east, getting ready to go from Richmond, Indiana into Ohio. I'm driving along in the right-hand lane, 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Nobody but me and the other trucks and a few four-wheelers. I'm cruising along at about 62 miles an hour, my set speed. Next thing I know, I'm approaching a vehicle in the right-hand lane that's doing, I can imagine, about 25 miles an hour. Light bulb goes off, red flag goes up. Something's wrong with them, right? So I basically come off cruise control, move over to the left-hand lane. Only thing I can do, I got to where there was a crossover, that, emergency, turned left in front of me. Guess what we had? Dash cam. That's all I'll say. And that went to the carrier, that went to the lawyers, that went to law enforcement, and that was it. That was done. That's all we had to say is look at that. And even the truck that was behind me had dash cam too. And he stopped and provided that to law enforcement and to our carrier and everything also. So.
And to me, I drive down the road and there's billboards with all the lawyers that want to jump in to sue us. And not only having the camera to protect yourself, but when I think of how some of my fellow people in trucking drive through a construction zone, I'm like, did you not see the billboards? They're gone.
They're not big enough, Henry.
Like in South Carolina, it's a pet peeve of mine in this one construction zone that's 55, and my truck tells me the speed of the vehicle ahead of me. And I have trucks coming by me pulling doubles doing 75. It's so many crashes there, and I say crashes, that the one wrecker company rented a field so they have a place just to drag trucks off the interstate. It's like, here's your sign. For 18 miles, do 55 and just get through there. When they crash and hold me up 3 hours, I'm not that totally pleased with it.
I just wanted to say that my name's Jeff. I'm with API. I appreciate you bringing up 495 because I'm in that mess a couple days a week, every week, and as a commuter. And I thank you first of all, for all the discussions around aggressive driving and around safe driving and what have you. But a lot of folks on the road now have their own, in my car, we have cameras now too. We get a lot of accidents. There's a lot, I can tell you.
Not many accidents.
No.
Crashes.
Right, crashes. I can tell you the aggression of drivers and, running on four wheels is just, it's doubled since we got back to normal from, pre-pandemic times. So you got to be more vigilant than ever now. Just thanks for talking about it as a commuter, as the people that are in the left lane.
And the camera can save you. It can save you big time. All right. What else we got?
Well, I'm going to have a slide change here. That's how you can contact us.
Awesome. So they can simply take a picture of that with their phone?
Yep. And unless there's another question, I've got to tell you a little bit about our QR code. One of our members has a certain color truck that kind of looks like the same color of a child video that some of us, like me, got to watch over and over and over. So, but yeah, unless there's another dying question, I think we'll wrap it up right here. Anybody have any final comments?
Is that color purple?
Yes, it is a purple.
And green?
And yeah, he used to have a green front. But I'm not going to mention Barney.
Any questions, please? Any? Feel free.
We got about 10 minutes.
Take a picture of that, and that'll bring you more information on the group. They'd love to have you participate in their calls.
And whether you're a member of our group, I really encourage you to start a group of your peers. And don't make it just all people with your same opinion, because that's no good. And we can agree to disagree, but we got way too many open deck people now. But we used to have a whole lot of us with Freightliners, but have dry vans, have reefers, have tankers. We've had people with lie bottom floors that were part of the group. They've moved on to different things, but having that diversity, you never know who's going to have the idea of that you can transfer into yours, or maybe a piece of it. And having that kind of group to pull from, we had husband and wife teams. There was everything.
I'm glad you now are office expediters. You used to say we were expediter heavy.
And I would also
The
say
short truck people.
you don't have to have diversity. If you're a company driver, get some of your fellow company drivers on a weekly call saying, hey, what's happening, which shipper's acting up, which one's bad. what's working well, what isn't, and how, as you company drivers, can fix your own problem. You don't have to wait for the company to do it.
What's nice and I like about this group, I have 14 other individuals that I can pick up the phone and call anytime, doesn't matter what time, and if I have a problem, and one of the 14 either knows the solution or knows somebody that knows the solution that can get you the answer to help you, these 14 other folks makes my bottom line better in my business. That's why I'm here, besides trying to pay forward the information that I've learned from them and from others, but this group helps my bottom line.
And to me, weekly, it's sort of like a little refresher. It's almost like going to the safety course. If it's something you were getting lax with or whatever, you know, just through the conversation, you're like, it's the weekly recharge.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions?
In that case, we'll wrap it up, and we'll be available for one-on-one conversations. Other than that, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you coming.
Safe travels to all, and thank you very much.